Arizona Territory, 1875. The harsh sun beat down on the parched earth of Fort Verde, where the boundary between settlement and wilderness blurred like heat waves on the horizon. For 22-year-old Sophia Hawkins, the frontier represented both escape and exile. She stood on the porch of her uncle's trading post, her blonde hair swept into a practical bun, her blue calico dress dusty from the day's work. The delicate lace at her collar, a remnant from her life back east, seemed as out of place as she felt. 3 months had passed since she'd arrived, fleeing the suffocating expectations of Boston society after refusing a marriage proposal from a man 30 years her senior. Her parents had been mortified. A spinster by choice, they'd lamented. Better that, she'd decided, than a prisoner by marriage. But the Arizona Territory had its own kind of prison, isolation. The vast emptiness stretched in all directions, beautiful but unforgiving. Sophia had convinced herself that the frontier was no place for tenderness. Out here, survival was the only worthy pursuit. Love was a luxury afforded to those in civilization, not those clinging to its edges. Sophia, come help with these supplies, called her uncle, Marcus Hawkins, as the weekly supply wagon arrived. As she sorted through shipments of flour, sugar, and ammunition, Sophia couldn't help but notice the tension that hung in the air. Word had spread that a band of Apache warriors had been spotted nearby. The soldiers at Fort Verde stood alert, and settlers clutched their rifles a little tighter. "They're getting bolder," muttered one of the soldiers to her uncle. "Came right up to the ridge yesterday. Just watching." Sophia's uncle shook his head. "The treaty lines keep changing. Can't blame them for being suspicious." That night, unable to sleep in the stifling heat, Sophia slipped outside with a lantern. The trading post sat at the edge of settlement, with nothing but vast, moonlit desert beyond. Despite warnings to stay close to the fort, she had discovered a small spring-fed garden area just beyond the property, a hidden patch of green amidst the arid landscape. It was there she first saw him. Standing motionless against the shadow of a mesquite tree was a young Apache warrior. Their eyes met across the darkness. Sophia froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. He made no move toward her, no threatening gesture. He simply watched, his expression unreadable in the dim light. Sophia knew she should run, should scream for help, but something in his stillness held her there. After what seemed an eternity, he melted back into the darkness, leaving her to wonder if he had been there at all. The encounter haunted her sleep. The next morning, driven by a curiosity she couldn't explain, Sophia returned to the spot. In the harsh light of day, she found footprints, proof she hadn't imagined him. On an impulse that surprised even herself, she gathered seeds from her small collection, marigolds, poppies, and wildflowers she had brought from Boston, and scattered them near the spring. A peace offering? A message? She wasn't sure, but as she patted the soil over the seeds, she felt something shift inside her. If beauty could grow here, perhaps there was more to the frontier than mere survival. For 3 days, Sophia returned to check her planting. On the 4th day, she found a small arrangement of desert flowers placed beside her seedlings. She smiled, touching the petals gently. A response. 2 weeks passed in this silent exchange. Sophia's seedlings sprouted, tiny green promises breaking through the earth. Each time she visited, she found small gifts, an intricately woven grass bracelet, a polished stone, a hawk feather. She left her own tokens, a blue ribbon, a sketch of the spring, a handkerchief embroidered with her initials. It was madness, this wordless conversation with an Apache warrior. Yet in this barren place where she had felt so alone, these exchanges were like water to parched soil. On the 17th day, he was waiting for her. "You plant where others fear to walk," he said, his English precise but accented. He stood tall and proud, his bronze skin glowing in the early morning light. He was younger than she'd imagined, perhaps 25, with obsidian eyes that held both caution and curiosity. "You speak English," Sophia replied, surprised. "I am Osceola Neshoba. My people traded with missionaries. I learned." He gestured to the sprouting flowers. "Why do you plant here?" Sophia hesitated. "Because beauty belongs everywhere, even places where people say it can't grow." Something in his expression softened. "My people believe all life is connected. The earth does not know boundaries drawn by men. Neither should hearts," Sophia found herself saying. then blushed at her boldness. That meeting, brief, cautious, electric with unspoken meaning, became the first of many. Always at dawn, always beside the growing flowers, they began to share their worlds. Osceola explained how he served as scout and messenger between his tribe and the American authorities, a precarious position that earned him suspicion from both sides. Sophia spoke of her flight from Boston, her refusal to be traded in marriage like goods at the post. "Your people think mine are savages," he said one morning, "yet they would sell their daughters like horses." Sophia couldn't help but laugh. Perhaps we're not so different after all. As summer stretched into fall, the flower patch expanded. Sophia brought more seeds. Osceola contributed native plants. Together, they created an oasis that seemed to exist outside the tensions that surrounded them, a neutral ground where possibility flourished alongside their plantings. Their conversations deepened. Osceola shared the wisdom of his elders, stories of his people's connection to the land. Sophia read from books she had brought west, sharing poetry that made him smile. She taught him to write his name. He showed her how to identify edible plants in the desert. "Why do you risk meeting me?" she asked him once. "Your people would disapprove. Mine would be horrified." Osceola studied her face, her blonde hair now often loose around her shoulders when they met. "The elders say that in times of greatest darkness, we must seek light wherever it grows. You are light, Sophia Hawkins." The words pierced her carefully constructed defenses. For all her determination to need no one, she had come to need these moments. Need him, like the desert needed rain. But their private sanctuary couldn't remain secret forever. In October, a cavalry patrol from Fort Verde surprised them during their dawn meeting. Sophia had been showing Osceola a passage from Leaves of Grass when the soldiers appeared, rifles raised. "Step away from the Indian, miss," the sergeant ordered. Sophia stood frozen, the book still open in her hands. Beside her, Osceola had gone utterly still, his face a careful mask. "This man is my friend," Sophia said, finding her voice. "He's done nothing wrong." The sergeant's face hardened. "That Apache's been spotted near the fort for weeks, probably gathering intelligence for a raid. He's coming with us for questioning." "He speaks English," Sophia argued. "He's a translator for his people. He's helping maintain the peace." But her protests fell on deaf ears. The soldiers took Osceola away, his face impassive though his eyes, meeting Sophia's, held both reassurance and regret. At the fort, Sophia pleaded Osceola's case to the commander, Captain James Reynolds, explaining their meetings, insisting on Osceola's peaceful intentions. The captain was skeptical but not unkind. "Miss Hawkins, even if what you say is true, these meetings must stop. We're trying to maintain order here. The Apache are supposed to stay on their reservation lands. This man's presence so close to the fort creates tension we can't afford." "He was only there because I was," Sophia insisted. "I planted flowers, and he—" She stopped, realizing how foolish it sounded. "You planted flowers," the captain repeated flatly. "Miss Hawkins, this isn't Boston. The frontier doesn't have the luxury for such indulgences." The captain released Osceola with a warning, but the damage was done. Word spread quickly through the fort and the trading post. Sophia found herself the subject of whispers and disapproving stares. Her uncle, though more understanding than most, was deeply concerned. "Sophia, you cannot continue this friendship," he said carefully. "It's dangerous for both of you. The settlers already distrust the Apache. If they think one is sneaking around the fort to meet a white woman—" "We were just talking," Sophia protested. "Is conversation now forbidden in the territories?" "You know it's more than that," her uncle replied gently. "I see your face when you speak of him." Sophia turned away, unable to deny the truth. Against all reason, against the harsh realities of the frontier, against the very lessons she thought the West had taught her about survival and solitude, she had fallen in love. For 2 weeks, she did not return to the flower garden. She threw herself into work at the trading post, restocking shelves, mending clothes, anything to keep her mind occupied. But each dawn, she found herself looking toward the east, wondering if Osceola waited by their flowers. In late October, tensions between settlers and the Apache reached a breaking point when cattle went missing from a nearby ranch. Though no one had seen who took them, blame fell immediately on the nearest Apache band, Osceola's people. A group of ranchers and miners, fortified with whiskey and grievances, gathered at the trading post, planning to teach the Apache a lesson. "They understand only strength," declared one rancher, slamming his fist on the counter. "Army's too soft on them." Sophia, hearing their plans from the back room, felt cold fear grip her heart. Regardless of who had taken the cattle, this vigilante justice would only lead to bloodshed, and Osceola would be caught in the middle. That night, she slipped away from the trading post, taking her uncle's fastest horse. The moon was barely a sliver, the desert night black as pitch as she rode toward the Apache encampment. She had never been there, knew only its general direction from things Osceola had mentioned, but desperation drove her forward. Dawn was breaking when she finally spotted smoke from cooking fires rising against the pale sky. She approached slowly, hands raised to show she carried no weapons. Almost immediately, she was surrounded by Apache warriors, their faces suspicious and hostile. "I seek Osceola Neshoba," she said clearly. "I bring warning." She was taken to a small wickiup where Osceola was speaking with an elder. His face registered shock when he saw her. "Sophia," he said, stepping forward, then catching himself. "Why have you come here? It is not safe. Settlers are planning to attack your people," she explained quickly. "They blame you for stolen cattle." The elder, a dignified man with deep lines etching his face, studied her intently while Osceola translated. When he finished, the elder spoke at length. "He says your coming here shows either great courage or great foolishness." Osceola translated. "Why would a white woman risk herself for Apache lives?" Sophia met the elder's gaze. "Because I believe all lives are connected. Because wrong is wrong, no matter who commits it. Because," she faltered, then finished simply, "because I could not stand by and let harm come to your people." When Osceola translated, something in the elder's expression shifted. He spoke again, his voice softer. "He says you have a spirit that walks between worlds," Osceola said. "Like me." The warning allowed the Apache band to move their camp deeper into the mountains, avoiding confrontation with the vengeful settlers. But Sophia, returning to the fort, found her absence had been discovered. Rumors spread that she had fled to join her Apache lover. Her uncle, though relieved at her safe return, was devastated by the scandal. "I cannot protect you from these rumors, Sophia," he said wearily. "Perhaps it would be best if you returned to Boston." The thought of leaving, of never seeing Osceola again, of retreating from this land that had somehow worked its way into her heart, was unbearable. Yet she could not stay and bring further shame to her uncle, who had shown her nothing but kindness. In November, as preparations were made for her return journey, a delegation of Apache leaders arrived at Fort Verde for treaty discussions. Among them was Osceola, serving as interpreter. The negotiations were tense, both sides harboring deep mistrust. During a break in the talks, Osceola managed to find Sophia at the trading post. "You are leaving," he said. "It wasn't a question. My presence here only causes problems," she replied, unable to meet his eyes. "For my uncle. For you. For everyone. The flower garden is dying," he said quietly. "Without your care." The simple observation broke something in her. Tears she had refused to shed now flowed freely. "This land has no place for what I feel," she whispered. Osceola touched her hand briefly, the contact electric despite its brevity. "The land does not judge, Sophia. Only people do." That evening, as the treaty discussions continued behind closed doors at the fort, a fire broke out in one of the ammunition storehouses. In the chaos that followed, soldiers rushing to contain the blaze before it reached the main powder magazine, no one noticed when a band of renegade Apaches, opposed to any treaty with the whites, attacked the fort. Sophia, who had been helping serve food to the delegation, found herself trapped in the command building alongside several officers, the Apache leaders, and Osceola. Outside, gunfire and war cries filled the night. "They are not from our band," one of the Apache leaders told the commander through Osceola. "They are Ghost Band, who refuse all treaties." The commander, skeptical but with few options, had to take their word. "We're surrounded," he said grimly. "The ammunition we could use to defend ourselves is either burning or at risk of exploding." Osceola conferred with the other Apache leaders, then turned to the commander. "My chiefs will try to speak with the attackers. They may listen to respected elders." But someone must go with them to show the soldiers not to fire upon them as they approach the attackers. I'll go, Sophia said immediately. Everyone turned to stare at her. Absolutely not, Miss Hawkins, the commander said. The soldiers will not shoot if they see me, she insisted. And the attackers may be less likely to harm a woman. Osceola's face was a storm of emotion. It is too dangerous, Sophia. More dangerous than doing nothing, she challenged. You taught me that all life is connected. If I can help prevent bloodshed tonight, I must try. After heated debate, a desperate plan was formed. Sophia would accompany two of the eldest Apache leaders to attempt negotiation with the attackers. Osceola insisted on joining them, refusing to let Sophia face such danger without him. Under a flag of truce, they stepped into the chaos of the night. The fort was partially ablaze, gunfire exchanged from multiple directions. Following the Apache elders' lead, they moved carefully toward the perimeter where the attackers were concentrated. What happened next would later become legend in both Apache oral tradition and frontier stories. Sophia, her blonde hair gleaming in the firelight, stood beside Osceola as the elders called out to the attackers. For a moment, the gunfire paused as the renegade Apache considered these unexpected negotiators. Then a nervous young soldier, mistaking movement for aggression, fired a shot that struck one of the elders. The night erupted again in violence. Osceola pulled Sophia behind the scant cover of a water trough as bullets flew around them. The wounded elder lay exposed, blood darkening his clothing. I have to help him, Sophia cried. You will die, Osceola said, his grip on her arm firm. Then we both will, she replied, meeting his eyes with determination. Together, something passed between them, an understanding, a recognition of the truth they had been circling for months. In this moment of chaos and fear, the false beliefs they had each carried, that the frontier demanded isolation, that their worlds could never truly meet, fell away. Together, they crawled to the fallen elder. As bullets struck the ground around them, they dragged him towards safety. Their actions, visible to both sides of the conflict, created a moment of stunned silence. A white woman and an Apache warrior, moving as one to save a life, heedless of the danger. In that pause, the remaining Apache elders seized the opportunity to call again for ceasefire. Gradually, improbably, the gunfire slowed, then stopped. By dawn, a fragile truce had been negotiated. The wounded elder survived, though barely. Sophia and Osceola, exhausted and smoke-stained, found themselves regarded with a mixture of confusion, suspicion, and reluctant respect by both sides. Captain Reynolds approached them as they sat side by side on a bench outside the infirmary. That was either the bravest or the most foolhardy thing I've ever witnessed, he said, shaking his head. But I cannot deny it likely saved many lives tonight. The events of that night changed everything. The story of the white woman and Apache warrior who had risked death together to save the elders spread rapidly through the territory. Some were scandalized, others fascinated. But the simple fact remained. Their actions had helped prevent a massacre. In the weeks that followed, as the wounded elder recovered, Sophia found herself in an unexpected position of respect among both the Apache and many at the fort. Captain Reynolds, recognizing an opportunity, suggested she serve as an additional interpreter and cultural liaison alongside Osceola. The Apache women trust you, he explained. And God knows we need more understanding between our peoples, not less. Her uncle, seeing the tide of public opinion shift, no longer pressed her to return east. Perhaps there is a place for you here after all, he conceded. Winter settled over the territory, bringing cooler temperatures and clarity. Sophia and Osceola continued their work as intermediaries, building bridges between cultures that had long viewed each other only through the lens of fear. Their flower garden, though dormant for the winter, remained a private sanctuary where they could speak freely. It was there, as the first hints of spring touched the air, that Osceola asked Sophia to be his wife. My people have a tradition, he explained, taking her hands in his. When a man and woman wish to marry, they drink from the same cup, eat from the same bowl for 4 days. If after this time they still wish to be joined, they are considered married in the eyes of the tribe. Sophia's heart soared, even as practical concerns rushed in. What of your people? My people? Will they accept such a union? Osceola smiled, the expression transforming his serious face. The elder you helped save has declared you one who walks between worlds. He has given his blessing. As for your people, he shrugged. Some will never accept us. Others already do. We will make our own path. The wedding ceremony took place in May 1876, as Sophia's flower garden burst into vibrant bloom. It incorporated elements from both their cultures, an Apache blessing alongside Christian vows, exchange of traditional gifts, and simple gold rings. Captain Reynolds himself officiated, his initial skepticism long since replaced by genuine respect for them both. Many from the fort attended, along with members of Osceola's band and traders who had come to know the couple through their work. Not everyone approved. There were notable absences and disapproving glances, but those who came celebrated with genuine joy. As a wedding gift, Captain Reynolds granted them permission to build a small home on the land where their flower garden grew. Technically military land, but situated perfectly between the fort and the reservation boundaries. A symbolic placement for a union that bridged two worlds. Together, they expanded the garden into a small farm, growing both food and flowers. Their home became an unofficial meeting place where Apache and settlers could speak freely, resolve minor disputes, and slowly build understanding. Sophia wrote to her parents in Boston, explaining her new life. Their initial horror gradually softened to cautious acceptance, especially after the birth of their first child, a daughter with Sophia's blonde hair and Osceola's dark, intelligent eyes. Over the years, as the Arizona Territory moved toward statehood and the frontier gave way to settlement, Sophia and Osceola's home remained a place of confluence rather than conflict. Their 3 children grew up speaking both English and Apache, at home in both worlds while belonging fully to neither, pioneers of a different kind of frontier. Sometimes, visitors would ask about the extraordinary flower garden that surrounded their home, blooming with improbable vibrancy in the desert soil. My husband stood guard over this land long before it was ours, Sophia would explain, smiling at Osceola across their yard where he taught their sons to identify edible plants. I planted flowers where he kept watch, and something miraculous grew. By 1895, their oldest daughter had become a teacher at the school that served both fort and reservation children. Their sons worked as scouts and interpreters for the territorial government. The flower garden had become famous throughout the region, a symbol of what could grow in the most unlikely of places. On warm evenings, Osceola and Sophia would still sit together beside the spring that had first drawn them both to that patch of earth. Their hands, now marked by 20 years of shared labor, would find each other in the gathering dusk. Did you ever imagine this? Sophia would sometimes ask, gesturing to their home, their garden, the evidence of their shared life. No, Osceola would answer honestly. The young warrior who watched a white woman plant flowers never dreamed of this. He believed the frontier allowed no room for tenderness. And the woman believed love was a luxury she had left behind in Boston, Sophia would add. How wrong we both were. Around them, the desert would grow quiet except for the chorus of night insects and the distant laughter of their grandchildren. The harshness of the frontier had not disappeared. Life in the territories remained challenging in countless ways. But they had discovered together what neither could have learned alone, that even in the most unforgiving landscapes, love could take root and flourish, as persistent and miraculous as wildflowers blooming in the desert.